Welcome back. Welcome to the first part of the UMass CS230 Prep Series, A Rapid Introduction to C. I felt like making this short little series because I heard that they took the Intro to C unit out of the CS230 course and felt that it would be easier for a lot of people if they had a quick introduction to the language within the context of the course. So, looking at the title, you might be asking, what is EdLab? You don't know what EdLab is? Well, I'm here to tell you. EdLab stands for Education Laboratory. It's a group of servers run by UMass that run 32-bit Unix machines. So you might be asking, what's 32-bit Unix? That's a type of OS. Unix is an old OS that was so cool that people use OSs based on it still today. And those OSs are cool. So basically, Unix-based OSs, cool. I've heard a lot of people ask, what is EdLab? But no one asks, why? Why is EdLab? Why is EdLab? EdLab is because compiled languages, such as C, can act vastly different on different systems and with different compilers. Like on a 32-bit system, an integer has 32 bits, but on a 64-bit system, an integer might have 64 bits. So the same code might not run the same on two different systems. We use EdLab so that everyone uses the same type of system and the same compiler. So now I'm going to show you how to connect to the EdLab through the command line interface. So if you launch CMD, the command we're going to do is SSH. That's how you connect to a remote server, SSH. And then you're going to type the address, which is your net ID minus slustig, and then at lnux.cs.umass.edu. That's the address of the EdLab server, and then you just hit enter. So it'll prompt you for your password, and your teacher will give you your initial password, and it's probably going to be, well, this was mine, but it was capital E, capital L, and then the last 3 digits of your student ID, and then the first 3 letters of your username. Where like your net ID, it's like your Spire net ID is your username. So mine would be capital E, capital L, and then the last 3 digits of my UCard ID number, and then SLU. But once you get in for the first time, it'll prompt you to change your password. And that's how you log in through the command line interface in Linux or on Mac. It's going to be the same thing. You just launch a terminal instead of a command prompt window, and then it's going to be the same command SSH and then netid lnux.cs.umass.edu. One more thing, if I log out really quickly with this command, there are a number of servers. There's lnux 1, 2, 3, and 7. As you can see here, I had connected to lnux 2, the lnux 2 machine. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 7. And if you're ever having trouble with one specific lnux, you can switch by just typing in, like if I wanted to connect specifically to lnux 1, I'd type lnux 1 instead of lnux. And now I'm in lnux 1. So otherwise, you can just use lnux.cs.umass.edu. So really quickly, I'm going to talk about how to mount your EdLab onto a drive on your computer. And the reasons you want to do this, first of all, it allows you to use whatever IDE you want, like one that uses a GUI instead of a command line text editor like Vim or VI or Nano or Emacs. You can use VS Code instead. You can use any IDE you want. It's really nice. The other big strength is you can really quickly turn things in, like really quickly bring things over from the EdLab servers onto your machine, or even just put them directly into Gradescope. Those are the two huge strengths of mounting the drive, the EdLab, onto your machine. So to do this for Windows, you're going to want to use SFTP drive. That was the easiest way I found. SFTP drive, you can find it on the internet. As you can see, I already have a drive set up. I'm just going to delete it. I'll just make a new one for the video. So you're just going to, once you have it up, you're going to make a new drive, and it's going to have you edit your drive. I'm going to name mine UMass EdLab. Remote host is going to be lnux.cs.umass.edu. Username is going to be your NetID. Mine is slustig. Password, the password you set up after logging in through the command line, after it prompts you to change your password. So I'm just going to type in my password here. You leave this blank. For remote folder, there are two things you can do. One is just leave it as user's home folder, and the other is going to be putting it as your CS230 folder, and I would probably recommend putting it as your CS230 folder. And the way you find out what folder you're in, like your CS230 folder is you're gonna want to open up the you're gonna want to go back into the EdLab. Just do that really quick, and then here, so we have the CS230 folder in the home directory, but it's actually just a symbolic link, and that means it's like kind of like a folder, but it brings you to a different folder somewhere else on the machine. So right now, if I print my working directory using pwd, I'm in nfs elsrv4 users4 grad slustig. But if I go into the CS230 folder, print working directory, it just appends the CS230 to the end, but I'm not actually here. If I use pwd-p, the -p option tells you like actually where you are without any soft links. So if I use that, it tells me this is the actual folder I'm in, and I can copy this and paste it into here. If I wanted to have my CS230 folder be the drive I'm mounting. So I'm just going to press OK and connect to the drive. It'll log in and it'll bring up the CS230 folder. So I have my challenges, my projects, blah, blah, blah. And so that's how you're going to mount the drive in Windows. To stop mounting, you just press stop, and then you can close this when you're not using it. So now I'm going to show you how to mount the drive in Linux. So I'm just going to do Control-Alt-T to launch a terminal. And just to show, or I'll get the address of the CS230 folder again and copy it on the Linux machine. Okay, so now that we got this address of the CS230 folder, or like the CS230 symbolic link actually, I'm just going to copy it, and then I'll use that in mounting the drive. I'll mount this drive onto my virtual machine here. So first what we're going to want to do is you need to install the SSHFS program if you do not have it. I already have it installed, but if you were going to install it, it would just be sudo apt install SSHFS, and this is just how you mount drives in Mac and Linux. With SSHFS, you need an empty directory to mount the remote drive into. So I'm just going to create an empty directory. I'll call it EdLab. So this is just going to be in my home folder right here. And so to mount something into it, you just do SSHFS, and then we're going to do the NetID at lnux.cs.umass.edu, and then colon, and then here's where we put the address of the CS230 folder. We cannot use just the home directory with this one because it doesn't follow the symbolic link using SSHFS, but it doesn't really matter. It's probably easier just to have it mount your CS230 folder anyway. And then you pass in the local directory that you want it to be mounted inside of. And then you hit enter and it'll prompt you for your password. I enter my password and now it says nothing, but if I ls edlab, it'll show my what's in my stuff on the server, and I can change this stuff. I can edit the stuff in my file system and it will update to the server, which is very great. That's how you mount the drive. To unmount on here, you just type u mount and then the local directory would be edlab. Then enter. Now ls edlab, it's empty. The drive is empty, or the directory is empty. So that's pretty great. Yeah, so that's how you do it on Mac and Linux. So the last thing I wanted to go over was my general workflow with editing and compiling and running programs on the EdLab. So the first thing I do is open up SFTP drive and start it. Then I open up VS Code. And basically if you have a workspace that you were working on, it'll automatically open into that workspace. So if I had just used the workspace, it would open on this screen, which is extremely useful. So it has the workspace over here on the left. So all I did to create this workspace was file, save workspace as. After adding the folder to the workspace, save workspace as, and then I just saved it in my CS230 folder on EdLab. So I would open up VS Code and it would automatically have all this stuff. I do right here, it says toggle terminal control plus, and that's the tilde button. So I do that and it opens it up, and in this I have connect.bat. You could also name this login.bat. Generally anything works. So I just do /connect.bat, hit enter, it runs SSH, it SSHs to the server. I enter my password, and then I'm already in EdLab in the terminal, and then I would be working on, for example, a test file. So I can edit a file. Let's say I wanted it to print, instead of hello world, hello stew, hello stew. I can go to the test. I go to the CS230 test folder, and I can compile main.c. Oh, right now I didn't save it. It's a little awkward. Save. Just for an example, I could /a.out. This should say hello world. And then compile again. And then /a.out says hello stew. So I can edit stuff and then really quickly compile and run programs. Okay, bye.